Hello, and today we're going to talk about the hip and what we call the waist. So in our Tai Chi study, what we mean by hip, pretty simple, we're all familiar with that. The waist is in fact all of the rotational quality that exists above the hip. So how do we look at that? Okay, I'm in my basic alignment and stacking. Shoulder width. I even have my roundness and bows. From here I can extend my arms to the side. Now if I rotate the hip to 45, I notice that the upper body follows and back to square. I rotate the body again, the hip turning only. Just the hip to 45, one more time each side, and the other. Okay, and what we also realize is that I can keep the hip quiet, keeping it square, and I can also just rotate my shoulders and upper body. So this shows me what the waist is and what it does. If you see it from the side one time, so I'm rotating just the shoulders. They can turn all on their own. Or I'm rotating the hip, noticing that the upper body turns with me. So we have a lot of questions about what's the hip doing, what's the waist doing. The hip is very simple. If I find out here, I go to 45. If I try to go past 45, I start to collapse the bow and the legs. So the hip's pretty simple. It likes to stay level, and it goes to 45. Even when I'm standing and stepping into my bow stance, the hip likes to live at 45. Now the waist is where we see a lot of differentiation between our different movements. Okay, so I can rotate the upper body to square while leaving the hip 45. And we see this in on, where my arms are actually square. The hip comes back and sits the back leg, and I press forward. So if I'm showing you from the side, and we'll step back this time, left foot into on, adjusting if you'd like. Okay, so my hip is 45, and right now the upper body waist is 45. I can rotate the waist and upper body while leaving the hip at 45. The arms then can be square. I shift my weight back. I'm sitting the back leg. Everything is 45 in the hip. And then I press off the back leg, extending through the hip and into the waist and out into the arms. Last but not least, we have our cloud hands. And I'll show you the difference. Circling up and out. Now, if I'm only moving my arms, you can see that. I'm only moving the arms, and the rest of the body is actually still. And I've explained to do this, I'm having to hold my body in tension. So when I'm circling in my cloud hands, I'm actually allowing the hip to rotate ever so slightly, and also the waist to gently rotate and turn. So you'll notice that the relationship between my elbow and the body never actually changes throughout my cloud hands. It's actually still going along for the ride. My body rotates, the arm turns over. My body rotates, the arm turns over. So you realize, as always, the power of the movement is still coming from the hip. We say in our Tai Chi study, energy comes from the feet, is shaped in the hips and waist, and is expressed through the hands. So practicing distinguishing between hip, which stays pretty simple, it likes to be in the 45 and level, and all of the different things that the upper body can do.